Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with me, I'm glad you're here. Each Wednesday, I'm here with you talking about things that weigh on our minds and hearts, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust our perspectives as you listen. The more people I meet, and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of our lives that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at me are for limits. We hear a lot about those kinds of things. You know, there are so many metaphors out there, so many turns of phrase that talk about, well, you limit yourself. The only reason why you haven't achieved more or this, that, or the other thing is because you continue to tell yourself no. No. We've heard it a lot. There are so many ways of speaking about these kinds of things. And I'm here to say that limits are for suckers. Now, my question is this. The moment I say that, what is your your gut instinct when I say something like that? I'm thinking a lot of camps are going to break down into one of two branches. It's either going to be, well, now wait a second, shimmin' is safety, and shimmin' money, and shimmin' time, and family commitments, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All fair points. And then there's another camp that's like, yeah, no limits. Limits are for suckers. I'm here to crush it. Sound familiar? Do you fall into one of those camps? I know I do. I absolutely do. I think there is an argumentative nature in me that I do not always enjoy, that likes to be like, well, and there's a mansplaining side of me that likes to be, well, actually, and I need to work on those things. I want to be better at being the second camp. Heck yeah, limits are for suckers. Now, here's the thing. Because I'm on here and I'm talking with my friends, neighbors, and loved ones, and soon to be friends, neighbors, and loved ones every week about these kinds of things, I'm real good at telling other people that limits are for suckers. How good am I at taking that little turn of phrase and making something out of it in my own life? Oh, uh-oh, oh. Ooh, exactly. Real good at dishing it. How good are you at taking it, Bullard? I'll be honest, not great. Not great at all. One of my favorite people here in Vegas, he's had a rough last few years, especially when it comes to dating and whatnot. And y'all have heard me talk about him before, but things have started to turn around for a young friend. Well, okay, young being a relative term. And it is so great because he is starting to blossom. He's starting to wear flashier clothing. He's starting to have a little more pep in his step. He's starting to feel very confident. And it's so fun to watch that growth. It really is. It's enjoyable for me to see this whole thing happen because whenever we became friends, there was a burden on his life. There was like a heaviness about him, a seriousness that I couldn't seem to balance with the kind of person that I would see on the regular. You can see through people whenever you get to be really close friends with them. You can start to see like what of them is the potential and what of them is the burden. You know what I'm talking about? That started to happen. And I started to see the burden lighten. I started to see him take steps so that he could, take parts of it off of his shoulders and start to really spread his wings to fly. And it was great. Oh my God. What a wonderful thing to watch. Now, we talk about a lot of things. It's like, okay, is this a thing that is going to be a rebound situation? Is this something that's going to be a long-term situation? And, pardon me for even asking it. Right now, the main point I want to do is celebrate the fact that you are moving forward into something new that is with a partner who is respectful and who is affectionate and all these kinds of things that I did not necessarily hear about in the previous relationship. Great. All respect to everyone involved attempting to keep everyone anonymous. Okay. Well, in all of this coaching and all of this like hype guy stuff, he was listening and now it's starting to take root and this thing is happening and it's great. And there is something appearing in my life recently and he is loving tossing all of that hype at me now. And I do not want it. Okay. I am not enjoying that at all, just so we're clear. It's a very different situation from my perspective because now I am receiving the hype and the loving words and the cheer on and the da 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 that I do not enjoy. Okay. And he is loving it, just so we're clear. And I'm like, oh, I hate this. This is not my favorite at all. And it's funny because I will say limits are for suckers to everyone else. But then whenever it comes time for me to be limits are for suckers, aim for the stars, land on the moon, or aim for the moon, land in the stars, however that thing goes. And all I want to do is come up with excuses. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Am I reading our mail? Because I know this is mine. I'm like, oof. Because I gave that limits speech to a new colleague of mine. I am very excited to announce here, and everywhere, to be honest, I will be performing officiant duties, meaning I will be um, officiating over wedding ceremonies here in Las Vegas very soon. As soon as my licensure comes through and I go through my training with a group here in Vegas that specializes in very specific types of ceremonies, very small, catered affairs, usually things that happen in state parks and beautiful natural outdoor chapel situations. I'm very excited about it. This new colleague of mine, I'm speaking with her about it because she and I are talking and we're trying to get a feel for each other, as far as like, okay, so what are your strengths and how does that mesh into the organization? What would we use your specific skill set to the most advantage here? How would we go about that? Ah, super. Great. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And we're talking about things and we continue to get to know one another so that we can work more closely in a professional setting. And she writes me this thing and she's talking about limits and these sorts of things. And I just told her, I said, limits are for suckers. It is so easy for me to say these kinds of things to others. It is so difficult for me to take that same verbiage and apply it to my own life so that I can grow and be bigger and stronger and better. I hate it. I hate it when my friend uses my own words at me because it makes me crazy. Part of me thinks he's making fun of me, and I know that's not the case because I do honestly, sincerely believe that he has my best interest at heart. Hearing my own words of encouragement and hype coming back at me from somebody else's mouth is not my favorite thing. And that's something I'm going to have to work on. It just is. Because I need to make sure that whenever I'm ready to give someone that sort of hype, that nudge in what I think is a positive direction for their specific situation, that I'm ready to take the same kind of encouragement and open to it whenever I experience something similar. That seems fair, right? It does. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to be someone who's willing to accept that kind of it. In a way, it is a very positive, loving, encouraging, constructive criticism. In a way, it is. And I didn't see it as that until it came back at me full force from someone I know who wants the best for me. I'm like, ooh. And then my first reaction was to be like, well, I'm not going to do that no more. And then I stopped. I was like, no, wait. Because I've watched this person grow. It wasn't as fast as I wanted. It didn't end up exactly where I wanted it to end up, but it did get so much better. And then I had to start looking at me. I was like, wait, wait, wait. No, no, no. What I'm doing is trying to block the flow instead of realizing that whatever's flowing can ebb and flow. It can like kind of wash back at me as well. And instead of being like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, what I'm going to do is, well, what of the things that I'm saying can I use in my own life so that I can also benefit from what I think is very informative and knowledgeable advice and counsel? Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing too. I want to make sure that any and all friends who have ever come to me for any sort of guidance or even input. I want to say that exactly right. I don't want to call it guidance because God knows I don't know. All I can give you is my very best guess. Okay. But like, I don't know everyone involved. I don't know the situations surrounding. I don't know the scenarios ins and outs. What I can do is look at this from knowing this person and knowing what I know of the situation and offer the very best guess that I can give. And I need to be ready so that whenever someone wants to give me the same thing, that I don't think of myself as knowing better. What I want to think of myself is I am too close to the situation to trust my own opinion. What I need is someone to weigh in on this so that I too can say, yeah, limits are for suckers. And then I can start aiming higher. I can start dreaming bigger. I can start working toward things that are more grandiose and still completely stinking doable in my own life. In a few months, literally a few months, it scares me to death, but in the best way possible, I'm going to be mounting a concert and a celebration of life of pardon my saying, of me in Paris. I have not decided on a date yet. I have a general idea in mind when. I have not decided on a venue yet. I had an idea in mind, and now I don't think I want to spend 50,000 euro on a place that isn't going to sound the way I want it to sound. It looks exactly the way I want it to look. It's not about the look. It's about the sound. And so, in the spirit of dreaming bigger and emboldening and embodying this limits are for suckers mentality, I'm going to mount a concert, a celebration of half a century of me in the city of lights. And it's gonna be flippin' awesome, if for nobody else, for me. And it's just it so many times, I think this is really important. I'm not telling you this to brag about anything. What I'm telling you is I have set this lofty goal, and the first thing I start to do is figure out how or why it can't happen. What do? I put limits on it, restrictions. James, you can't afford that. It is crazy for you to expect people you love to spend the money to come to Paris for a birthday concert, you egomaniacal turd. And I mentioned this to some of my closest, nearest, and dearest one-on-one, and they are absolutely thrilled about the prospect. And I don't think it's lip service. I really, honestly, truly believe that a lot of the people with whom I have spoken about this are like, sweet, please give us notice. Because this isn't something that you planned last minute. You got to get stuff in order. And I think that's it. I think instead of trying to put a limit on something and limiting myself in that respect, what I need to do is prepare. It's preparation. It's never doubting the fact that this is going to happen. It's putting systems in place to ensure that not only does this happen, that it absolutely melts the face and just explodes the heart of every single person that decides to come to this fete, this festive celebration craziness halfway around the world. What the deuce? I know. It's crazy. I know it's crazy. And that's part of the best part of it It's nuts because limits are for suckers. Because if you don't think big enough, if you don't dream grandly enough, you never know how big you can become. You never know how wide a reach you have until you try it. And I'm not saying just throw it at the wall and hope something sticks. Yes, for the initial phase of it, absolutely. And then you get to work. You figure out what it's going to take. Okay, sweet. I found my venue. This is perfect. It's going to hold 350 people. It's got the vibe that I want. It is capable of sustaining the acoustic needs that I have, the electrical needs that I have, the space for the number of people I hope actually show up and get crazy. Okay. Then it comes down to the repertoire. What am I going to be doing? This is going to be what? 60, 90 minutes, 2 hours? What are you going to do? Hell no. I'm not going to bore these people with 2 hours of my singing and stupid. I can chock 60 to 90 full of enough fun and ridiculous that nobody's going to get bored. I don't want to bore anybody. We're not there to absolutely stroke my ego, maybe a little. That's not why we're there. We're there to celebrate the fact that we can all be in this incredible city, having a blast, celebrating the fact that I made it to half a century. What the what? It's not about me. It is a little, but not really. It's about making those connections. I can't wait to see who shows up. You know? And again, not about me. It's just about throwing something out there that is so crazy and so just absolutely, I can't believe I'm even attempting this. And to see who shows up, to see what comes of it. Because I am just so unbelievably confident. And some of y'all may call this foolishness, and some of y'all just like, well, of course it did. Thank you to both of you, to both camps of that opinion. Every time I try something absolutely crazy, and the older I get, the more often I try it, something gloriously, unexpectedly wonderful beyond my feeble comprehension always comes to fruition because I was just bold enough to try. Limits are for suckers. Don't be a sucker. You're not a sucker. We are not suckers. Why is that? Well, because we're all listening and playing together here right now. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, you've gotten this far to know that we're on a big old train and it is chugga-chugging nonstop crazy town, and it's not even pulling into a station. No, baby. Nuh-uh. What it's doing is going full tilt all the way, needle buried in the red, flames shooting out the smokestack because there is so much fuel burning. We're not pulling into a station. What we're doing is we're just going to keep riding until we reach the end of our journey together. And it's not going to pull calmly into the station, is it? Oh, hell no. It's going to be careening through the Swiss Alps. It's going to be skidding across the desert of burning sand and wavy. You know what I'm talking about. Whenever you're watching something, you see those beautiful movies where you're in the desert and the sun is beating on the sand. So it's so hot that the heat rising off the sand is literally distorting the light that would show you something clearly if it wasn't so blessed hot. And that train is going to be just scathing across those tracks to cover that sand. And eventually we're going to be going through the mountains again, and it's going to be snowing, or it's going to be just pristine. And instead of pulling into a station, we're going to go careening off that track. We're going to get to a bridge that, for whatever reason, maybe 007 blew it up. I don't know. Here comes Mission Impossible. MI6 done blowed it to smithereens. And instead of pulling into the station calmly, we are going to go sailing off the end of that. And before we hit the bottom, that's going to be the end of this mortal coil. And at every point along the track, we saw unbelievable vistas. We soaked up the heat, the moisture, the cold, the snow. We saw so much. We stuffed our guts with the most delicious we could have gotten. We stuffed our souls with the people that we met along the way, those bonds, those connections that we made. And then when it was over, we didn't go quietly into some night. We blazed like the comets we are into a fiery, concussive ridiculous that finally just burnt us to a cinder, and we did it with a smile on our face, eyes closed, and maybe no. I was about to say maybe hands folded across our chest. Hell no. We had one hand on the oh shit handle, and the other was propping us up off the seat while we watched as death, that beautiful delicious, comes straight for our throat. And we're like, I'm ready. Because limits are for suckers. And this dream that you've got, it can be any number of things. I dream to be. I dream to do. And then I get to the business of being and doing. For me, that's travel. For me, that's seeing the world. That's making connections with strangers, people in elevators. My colleagues absolutely go bonkers because I will rarely step into an elevator without striking up some kind of conversation about toenail polish or sparkly shoes or I love your hair or whatever. Just grasping for that connection, especially after 2 years of lockdown. Man, I am starving to death for that. And it's easy. It's easy. I'm not intimidating looking. I'm not. I smile with every tooth in my head. I'm not 7 feet tall. You know, if anything, I am entertaining. I would apologize if I was sorry. It's one of those things where it's just like the limits you place on yourself are just they're if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the person who could just desperately need that connection or that moment that somebody shares a moment, you know? That's another one of those things that my buddy threw back at me. He's like, "Hey, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the other person." It's like, "Oh, don't you throw that back at me, Ricky Bobby." And I love it because there's a part of me that knows that he was listening, and there's a part of me that even though I had to say it over and over and over and over again, it moved the needle. And now he's moving forward. And now he wants to pay back. We both joke about it. It's funny. It's funny because he's like, "Come on, Bullard, it's funny." He's like, "I was listening. I was paying attention." I said, "I know." And that's where the compliment lies. That's where the love lies. Because now his life is on a better trajectory. And I'm not taking any kind of credit. That's not what I'm saying. That's not at all what I'm saying. His growth is his own. When he was ready to move forward, he did. But you could bet your bottom dollar that I was right there the whole time, hyping him up, encouraging him, loving him through it. I was like, "Buddy, I'm sorry that you're hurting. I'm sorry that this person that you were in a relationship for so long is hurting as well and trying to deal with her situation by hurting you. I'm sorry. I used to get mad. I used to get mad at her. I used to be upset with her because she made him so unhappy because she tried so hard to break his heart." And then I realized he continues to choose it. I can't be mad at her as long as he's allowing it. I can't be mad at him because I love him. You know, this is my boy. That's my people. And then I started to grow as well. This person is not trying to hurt him for the sake of hurting him. This person is hurting him because she is hurting. And I don't think it's because of him necessarily. I don't think. I hope not. I think it's just the situation. I just think that a lot of people out there, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of us are hurting. And we just don't know how to digest that. We don't know how to work through it a lot of times because we don't do things. We don't try to work on it. We just expect it to get better. through no effort. Which, when you stop to think about it, is hilarious because, like, I want to have a 27-inch bicep, but I never pick up a weight. Well, if horses were wishes, Bullard, we can't expect things to get better if we don't want to work to make things better. And you have to know what you want to get better in order to work toward it. And when hoping for better, placing limits on them isn't always helpful. Why? Because limits are for suckers. I often get off on a tangent with these kind of things because I love the time we get to spend together. I love it. I love it. It makes me feel so good because often whenever I'm kind of meandering around, whatever these topics are, telling you about people in my life that I love that go through these things, telling you about the things that I go through so that you don't feel alone if you're dealing with something similar. It's just so nice because these connections start to kind of fuse for me as well. They solidify, they thicken. They become more substantial, beefier. Because who wants a little wimpy connection? Nobody. We want that sucker to be thick. Multiple C's. Maybe the optional K. We want that for ourselves. Why? Because the stronger the bond, the better the experience. Well, of course, that just makes sense, doesn't it? Well, yeah. Great. In the spirit of that whole thing that we just talked about, why would you limit yourself? Because whenever you remove those limits or work towards something larger, more grandiose in scale, you would need stronger bonds, bigger, thicker connections in order to achieve something so wildly outside your comfort zone. And how do we do that? We rely a little more heavily on others. We do a lot of the work ourselves, of course, because we can't rely on everyone for everything. We can rely on many for much. And that's another issue that I am working on. I'm not real good at relying on other people because sometimes I feel like, well, if you rely on other people, they'll you just give them the opportunity to disappoint you. That is flawed thinking. That is negative, small-minded, small-spirited thinking, especially in the group of people that I carry around with me, knowing they're my friends. It is an insult to them that I have paid inadvertently, passively, because I never tried on a lot of them. And they have offered so many times. And they are the people who, when they offer, we really need to take them up on it. Because a lot of friends in a lot of people's lives don't. And when we find those people who are willing, ready, offer frequently, openly to help, it is a big compliment to go ahead and find a way so that they can. They can help you exceed those limits. They can help you place those benchmarks farther out so you have to stretch and build and grow to reach them. And by then, you will have had the practice to not only reach them, but exceed them. Because that's the crazy part about growth. It doesn't stop just because you reach your goal. If you continue working those systems and those repetitive processes that have grown you to a place where you can reach these goals, it doesn't just abruptly stop just because you reach the goal you set. You continue to grow, at least for a little while. Now, if you back off on those processes, it might slow, but it might take it a second to stop because eventually it starts to build that inertia. A body in motion stays in motion. A soul in growth stays in growth. And we reach those limits and we often exceed them because we ain't suckers. I love the time we get to spend together. I say that every episode. I love it. I love it. It warms me from my heart to my tear ducts. And I'm real proud of myself that I didn't get just absolutely out of control of my weepiness. I did have to daub at a corner of an eye once or twice this episode, and that's fine. That's exactly where I want to be. I want to be so full that it leaks out a little bit. That's 100% great with me. I got zero problem with it. I love the time we get to spend together. It makes me a better man sitting in front of this microphone thinking about the people who might be listening to this, even if it's nobody. The fact that I am throwing it out there makes me feel great. If this is your first episode, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today on this meander through why we don't limit ourselves, because we are bigger, better, stronger, smarter than that. If this is not your first episode, welcome back to the party, kids. Glad you're back. More of the same coming. Okay? I love being here. I love doing this. It makes me so happy. Yes, I've had a lot of coffee today. No, I don't apologize for it, because it absolutely puts me in exactly the kind of mindset that I want to be to talk with anyone who wants to show up to this forum. If you are a person who loves to review these kinds of things, wonderful, welcome. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform where you're listening. Take a screenshot of that, send it to us, because it would thrill me no end to send you a thank you and a sticker from Radical Joy. It's got my face on it. It's hot pink. I'm sipping a cup of coffee and loving my life on it. Nothing would thrill me more than knowing that you enjoyed the time that you spent with us, and that I could give you a token of our appreciation for sharing that with friends. Speaking of sharing, please do. If you've gotten something out of this episode today, share us with your friends. Put it in your social media. Make sure people know that we're here and trying to do good work for amazing people. That's who we are and what we're trying to do every time we step up to the microphone. As always, please know that I am so grateful for your support. I love having you in my audience today and always. Love y'all.
The bottom line is, use your words, friends. Thank you for joining us again in this moment of radical joy. If this is your first time, we're so happy you're here. Take a moment to check out our archive. See if there's something else that fires you up, rekindles the joy in you. And hey, spread the word if you enjoyed it. We welcome reviews and messages. Let me know what you want to talk about. I rarely run out of things to say. So if there's something on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, there is no shame in joy. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 911. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Anything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Learn more about James and CLW Studios. Follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a review, and hey, we'll send you a sticker. Just send a screenshot and let us know where you want it sent. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of radical joy. Love y'all.